Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over a college football game preview and prediction on one of the games coming up in Week 10 of this 2020 season, and that's going to be between Minnesota and Illinois, and this is going to be an important matchup for both these teams, certainly. Both teams are 0-2 to start off the season, which is kind of surprising, considering Minnesota was ranked at one point this year already, and many expected them to be a top team in the Big Ten West. And then for Illinois on the other side, they've got a lot of talent, but they just have not been able to get big wins, and so it's going to be a very important game for both these teams moving forward. And we're going to be going over a full preview and prediction on this game here today, starting out with your team trends. Last week, Minnesota lost to Maryland 44-45. Terrible loss there for Minnesota, and obviously it was extremely close. Maryland just got the win there in the end, and that was the main reason why it was just a bad loss for Minnesota. For Illinois, they lost to Purdue by a touchdown, 24-31 was the final score there, and suddenly Purdue also is having a great start to the season. Watch out for them moving forward. And so, once again, your winning streaks, Minnesota and Illinois are both 0-2, also with 2-game losing streaks. Games will be on Saturday, November 7th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern in Champaign. So Illinois will be your home team here. Spread currently says Minnesota by 7.5. ESPN FPI has got a close game with Minnesota being a favorite by 53%. Vegas prediction has got Minnesota by a comfortable 8 points, 33-25 being the predicted final score right now. So all three sources have Minnesota here, which is not very surprising. Obviously, the Golden Gophers are much more talented, I would say, than Illinois. But then again, don't sleep on the Fighting Illini. They still have a lot of talent on their team too, and a lot of potential to have a good season, which, once again, it's just been a bad start for Illinois. They've just kind of gotten off on the wrong foot so far this season, and that's why this game is so important once again. It's just because, whichever team loses this game is going to be pretty much lost in the Big Ten West at this point. So, very important matchup for both these teams. Here's your stat comparison. Minnesota's got 34 points per game, 47 points allowed up until this point. Once again, this is only 2 games, or past 2 games so far this season. Minnesota also has 193 pass yards a game, 195 rush yards. And for yards allowed, they've allowed a lot of yardage, almost 600 total yards on average, 309 pass yards, and 268 rush yards. As for Illinois, they got 15 points per game, 38 points allowed per game, so they've allowed over 20 more points allowed so far this season in comparison to their points per game. They got 191 pass yards, 154 rush yards on average, then 309 pass yards allowed, and then 133 rush yards. Some key points for this one. Obviously, both teams are off to bad starts. That's pretty much self-explanatory at this point. But both teams, I certainly think, once again, still have potential to have good seasons. It's just gaining momentum and getting good wins, in which I think Minnesota, honestly, is more capable of doing that in this matchup. But Minnesota, both teams have got a lot of talent. There's no doubt about that. But Minnesota, they've still got they still have potential to be a Big Ten contender. I think there's no doubt about that. I think they could be a top 5 or 6 team in that Big Ten at the end of the season if they can just get a win here. Like Minnesota, once again, we saw how good they were last season with Tanner Morgan at quarterback, and now having Tanner Morgan back this season. Minnesota's got a lot of talent on their side, and it's just been a bad start for them, and that always happens to some teams. But it's not too late to still have a good season. But if Minnesota or Illinois, both of these teams each, for whichever team that starts 0-3, which we will have one team that starts 0-3 here, it's gonna be really rough to try to get back into the game. Which it's gonna be bad too. It's gonna be really rough. Especially for Minnesota being a team that's got a lot of potential to still be a great team. That's not gonna be a good situation. Illinois needs a win to build back some momentum. Minnesota's kind of in the same boat as Illinois there. Minnesota's pretty much dead as far as momentum goes. It's very discouraging after a loss to Maryland, which, for Minnesota, I still think PJ Fleck is going to really motivate them to get a win here, and I still think Minnesota's within reach of a good position. But it's going to be a very close matchup here. Do expect moderate scoring, though. I think both teams are pretty good on the offensive side in comparison to their defenses, so I do think we could see a moderate scoring game. And that being said, here's my prediction for this one. I got to go with Minnesota here. I think your halftime score is going to be 14-10, and I think in the final, Minnesota's going to get the win by a comfortable 14 points and a couple of touchdowns. But I still think Illinois is going to hang around for the majority of this game. We should see Illinois hang around all the way through the end of the third quarter at least. But I think Minnesota, the Gophers have so much more talent, and it's very evident by that. We saw how good of a season that this Gopher team had in 2019, and they had so much talent on that team, and they still do. They've got a lot of their talent back from that 2019 season, so there's really no excuse for Minnesota to not do well. Tanner Morgan's a quarterback that I think is genuinely a top 5 quarterback in the Big Ten. He just has had a tough go at it so far this season, and I think Minnesota's again, and try to flip that around, and they're going to get a good win, which will put them in the right direction against Illinois here this weekend. Probability is going to be 70% towards Minnesota, I think. I got to go with the Gophers here once again, especially, considering how much talent, Minnesota has. But don't sleep on Illinois in this situation. The Fighting Illini also have plenty of talent. They had a lot of players out due to COVID last week, so, that was a big problem for them. Their quarterback situation was really a mess, especially in last week's matchup against Purdue. I think they had their third string quarterback in, so it's just a tough situation for both these teams right now. But Minnesota, I've got them getting the win here in the end, and a much needed win as well. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Let me know your score predictions, all of that down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. But once again, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it and subscribe as well. And yeah, stay tuned for more. I'll see you all later.